What evil lurks in the dark? A question we have all asked ourselves many times. Together, we can start uncovering the truth and mystery behind the darker side of the otherworldly. And now your host of See You in the Dark, Michelle Roos.
Good evening to everyone, and welcome back to another episode of See You in the Dark. I've been bringing on different guests all over, doing from UFOs to paranormal. We've talked about cryptids and different things, but I have not been able to have this wonderful guest come. She's all the way in Ireland, so we want to definitely thank her for staying up late with us. She is internationally known as a paranormal researcher. And again, she was born and bred in Ireland, and she has been a researcher for over 20 years. She's the founder of Emerald Isle, Paranormal Researchers. And the crazy thing is, a little nervous because she has her own show that she's had since 2020. And of course, she is the hostess with the mostest. But I am not going to keep you guys hanging. I would love for you guys all to welcome Jenny Sullivan to the show. How are you, Jenny?
Good morning, good evening. I'm good. I'm great.
Actually, we were just talking about, messing up words. And then here I'm like, I got this. I'm confident. And then
Oh, I do it all the time.
boop.
I do it all the time. Every single time I do it.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me on.
We, have been talking about different types of paranormal,
Yeah,
and everybody talks about. Well, we talk about para unity, para this, para everything.
yeah.
And a lot of guests that I've talked to, when we talk about the reason we're doing this research is we're doing it because we want to give a voice to the spirits.
Yes.
And we kind of forget that because we get so wrapped up in the all every days, how many clicks, how many views, how many all of this.
Mm,
And I think we're kind of, especially here in the US, we kind of forget why we've all kind of gotten into
mm.
this. So just, to kind of ask you over in Ireland or across the pond, anywhere, are you seeing that same type of thing?
Yes, I really do. I mean, when I got into the paranormal field, the paranormal world, I did it because I was very curious and I wanted to know what was going on outside. And I have noticed in the last few years, there is how many numbers did we get? How many viewers did we get? And I always say to my team that they're forgetting why they've gone out to investigate, completely forgetting the research, completely forgetting the investigations, and it's about numbers and figures, and that's not with my team. We go out there, and we were out on Saturday night, and we had an amazing night in one of our favorite locations of where I live, and it's the excitement and the adrenaline rush of getting more from a location that we've been investigating for 7 years, but it's always an adrenaline rush. And that's what it's about for me and for my team. It's not about numbers. And I know when we go out on a location, and sometimes I'll do lives and sometimes I won't. But when I do lives, it's to show people across the world the fabulous locations in Ireland, such as the Drogheda Museum, Millmount, Lep Castle, Wicklow Jail. That's why I do it. It's not to show how many numbers we can get. We could get 5 people watching, and that's 5 people watching this fabulous locations that we're going to. So it's not about numbers for us, for my team in particular. It is for other teams that I've came across in my side of the world.
Yeah, and I notice like when we go out and do it, whether it's a team or an event, people are always like, why aren't you going live? Let people get there, have them come to you. And, at first I started doing that every once in a while. And then I got to thinking, I'm
Mm,
not here to do that. I got into this because, which you understand, with the abilities I have of why I was doing it. I was trying to search for answers for myself. And the more I got into it, it was, okay, wait a minute, spirits wanting to talk to us. They're wanting to let us know some of the wrongdoings or good doings or whatever the case might be.
Right.
And, so when I kind of cut out, they're like, well, your team won't be as popular. And I'm kind of like, at what point do we, draw that line of, okay, are we going to put them on showcase in front of a screen, or
Mhm.
are we really going to tell their story?
Right. That's it. Right. That's a beautiful picture of me. Beautiful.
Picture. Look at you, all fabulous.
Oh, I was having beautiful prosecco that night. It was great. I was out for dinner. It was lovely. I was very chilled. Very chilled. I was. I noticed that when we did an investigation on Saturday night, and we would have the cameras downstairs in one particular area of the building, or on any part of the building, and we find we get less when we have cameras there. We get less from them. We get more audio than we would visual, and so we turn all the cameras off and we continue with the audio, and so I understand where they don't want to be seen, and we respect that. I always say to them, we will turn the cameras off. We apologize. We will turn the cameras off, and it's just that's for us basically. And I get it. Not everybody wants to be in camera, so and they work differently, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
If they work differently, that they do not want to be seen, and I understand that. So we work with them and not, to try and get pull as much as we can from them. We have to respect the location, and I have to say, and the locations that I go to, I begin to. That's my dog snoring in the background. If you can hear snoring, I'm sorry, it's my dog.
It's okay.
That's my chihuahua. Oh my goodness, she had a big feed tonight. But we begin to know the people, so we definitely respect them. They become, if I can say the word, known to us, friends
Yes.
to us,
Yes.
and we work with them, and like you say, get their story, get their side.
So my question is, okay, so like myself, when I investigate, I am very respectful and stuff, but depending on where the location and what kind of environment it was when it was actually open and happening during those years, I kind of navigate the way I speak and what I ask. Do you guys do that also?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Places such as the Milmet Museum here in Drogheda or Lep Castle. And it depends on it depends, like you say, it depends on the locations. And we always say as well, if there's bad people that was there before, don't talk bad back to them, because they were who they were, and they won't change. And we just kind of go with the flow with them. We don't be, if I can say the word, arses back to them. That's an Irish
Yeah.
thing. Back to them. We just don't do that, because that's just silly beggars thing to do. We just say, right, okay, we get it, we got it. You don't want us here. You're telling us to do X, Y, Z. We work with them, and some of them don't want us there, which is understandable. There's teams going into these locations left, right, and center. Now, the only team that goes into the museum would be my team, and they know us for about 7 years, and they still tell us the same things. There's a few kind of cocky people in there that will, still tell you the same thing. I think they're two very cheeky men in the museum. And I was listening to audio last night, and they are still very cocky and cheeky and blasé, and kind of, I think, funny sometimes in a way, the way they speak towards each other, because we do a thing called the ICT. So we'd have a mobile phone in one location of the building, which would be the kitchen area, and we'd have it on speaker. We'd have a recorder beside it, and we will take the other phone on speaker up to another part of the museum that we cannot collaborate with our sounds in the kitchen. And the things that come through to it, or the audio that we listen back to, are sometimes very funny, sometimes, that cheeky. I think that cheeky. Some of them are very cheeky. Especially two men in the kitchen are very cheeky.
See, and that's just like, we've gone to a prison, and the prison is set up in different areas of who was in each area. And, I was noticing people were talking the same way in each area, where one area, they were like really mean. They didn't like either women, or they didn't like, the color of your skin or whatever.
Yeah.
And people were trying to get the same kind of answers as they were when they were on another side of a prison, where it
Right.
was more of, they were just happy that you were there. They wanted to talk, things like that. And trying to get people to understand that you have to kind of change how you investigate depending on an area, because everybody's always, I mean, I've had people ask questions like, who won the Super Bowl? And it's like, okay, they were back in the 1800s. There was no Super
No,
Bowl,
really?
Yes. And we're like, ask any questions, like what was your favorite food, or I
Yeah.
always ask what year is it, or who's the president, to kind of get
Right.
where we're at. And these people are
Just,
like, did you see, the the Olympics? Were you happy
mm,
about the Olympics? And it just, I sit there and wonder, when I look at the spirits, like, are they just sitting there shaking their head like, who
yeah,
are these people?
please, please. And then the next team comes in and they do the same thing. And it's like, oh my God, stop doing that. And then you get other teams going in and asking relevant questions because they've done the research of the location, and
Hmm.
they've done the research and the names. And like I always say, not all history is written in books. That's
No.
why we go back continuously to the same locations to find out who is there that has not been talked about or heard about or written about. Who are the extra people that we don't know about? People who have died there and never been written into the books and so on. And we're getting that so far. We're getting it. And we have some of the most amazing residual audio from the location that I go to. And we have some of the most, even in Lep Castle, one of the best residual audio that I've ever heard that has never been put up, and probably won't be put up. But it's phenomenal. That's my dog again in the background snoring.
That's okay.
I'll try to wake her up. I'll try to wake her up, but she's away from
No, just let her sleep. It's okay. It gives us the ambiance of, are we hearing something?
my dog.
Well, and so, that was a good statement that you said, because like here, when we go to some of these locations, a lot of the location owners are like, all we want is, all you're going to get in this haunting is what's in the history books.
Right.
And when you start finding out some other history, even if it's darker history, if there was abuse or something like that, or, hate crimes, you
Yeah.
start finding all this out. A lot of these owners are like, oh my God, that didn't happen because I didn't see it in a book or on a piece of paper. And it
Right.
kind of cuts it off because, if there were women there that were abused by some men, and they're trying to tell their
Right.
story, especially like when you're in a brothel or something like that,
Yep.
it's like they're getting written off again. And so it's kind of, really strange how, when, like you said, you're trying to find more things out, because it wasn't just, the colonel and his wife, or the king and the maid or whatever. There, people lived lives like we did. When you go to those places, do these places also tell you, hey, if it doesn't fit what's written, we don't want to know about it, or we don't want you to talk about it?
Yes, that particular location that I'm talking about, that had spoken about, it was actually a woman that was abusing a man. And
Oh,
yes, and we thought he was being very malevolent towards us and angry with us and hissing at us, until I had a great friend of mine from the UK, come over as a visitation to me, and I brought her to Lepcastle and so on, brought her to my favorite location, which is in my town. And she said, Jenny, he was abused. He was abused by this female. And we were like, what? Really? Oh my God. And I did say, how would this location, as it was an army-based location in my town, and it was the British Army that had taken it over, how would a woman have the authority to abuse a man? And it would have been one of the higher officers up that would have given her permission to do this to him. And so I was asking him questions and so on, and then I had my recorder down there, I'd say about 2 or 3 years ago, and I played it. And then you can hear, hey, Jenny, can you hear me? And
Oh, wow.
that's all I heard until a year later. My daughter's friend was in my home and she was interested in the paranormal. And I played this audio for her and she goes, I can hear a murder at the end of it. And I'm like, okay. And me being me, okay, young ears, okay. And so I listened back to it again and I said, hey, Jenny, can you hear me? And something else we can't make out. And then it goes, Jenny, can you hear me? She murdered me. As clear as day. And I'm thinking, how did I not know this or hear this in about a year or 2 years? And it fitted in with the story that my friend had said about this woman had abused this man. So, and that's very, very clear. And it just fitted into what was in that location. So this woman was abusing this man. So it was just bloody phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal that we had gotten those jigsaw pieces put in together and it matched and it fitted and we could hear the voices. The voices were a little bit robotic, but you can make it out. You can make it out. And that for me was just on the icing on the cake. Was just phenomenal. It's like puzzling the pieces together in a jigsaw that you don't know who this man is. You don't know why he's angry. You don't know why he doesn't like women. But they always wanted me alone in the kitchen. And I had no idea why. But I did it. And I did it again on Saturday night. But there's a different voice that's coming through. Another new male's voice is coming through. So we're going to work on him and find out who he is as well. I think that the guy that we were working on, we called him Dave, that he's gone very quiet. But the new guy that comes in and his voice is a little bit deeper, raspier, and it comes through the spirit box and it comes through the audio. So we are going to work on him as well and just find out who he is. And we've got an amazing audio from this location.
Well, and that's just like when we look at like American history. A lot of the places like plantations and stuff, the slave owners, they always have the male that's doing all the abuse to the slaves and didn't realize, until you start hearing some of that a lot of time it was the women of the house who actually did most of it. And, being mean to them and abusing them and doing different things.
Yes.
And because it's not written, it's not the narrative of what the story is behind the slavery things, it's like, well, no, a woman couldn't do that. Well, a lot of women did because if their husbands were cheating on them with these women, with the slave women and stuff like that, these women had no say, so they did horrible things to them. And you
Yeah.
can find that out when you are speaking to spirit. But then you hear, well, no, that's not how it happened. Well, because we were taught something different.
Right.
So yes, they might have done it, but there is more to the story, just like you think about it, a woman, because it was the barracks, it makes no sense. But
Yes.
absolutely would make sense, because she could have been married to a higher rank or she could have been whatever. And that was something, they'd let her do because maybe she was a serial killer and we didn't know about it, right?
That's it. And he was giving her the power to do it. And the women would do it, or probably they would have no choice but to do it. Or they wanted to do it.
Yeah. I mean, we always portray the women back in those early days of, being in those beautiful dresses and acting very ladylike. But people don't understand when it got dark and the doors closed, what went on behind closed doors would be just like some of the crazy stuff that's going on nowadays behind closed doors.
That's it.
And it baffles me that people, forget not everything was unicorns and butterflies. There
Right.
was a very dark side to history.
Yes.
And we have to make sure that's also spoken about so the ones that didn't have voices can actually speak now to put their piece out there.
Yes, exactly.
So
Absolutely.
crazy, so crazy.
It is.
And then And the great thing is, for everyone who's listening, Jenny will actually be joining me in Ireland
Yeah.
next year, 2025. She knows all the ins and outs and everything when it comes to the paranormal there in Ireland. Um, and I'm super excited that she's going to be with us to be able to bring to life some
I'm
of the
looking forward to it.
stories and everything, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, right?
I'm looking forward to it. Trust me, it is a fantastic country. It's a fantastic country for locations, for the history, for the folklore, for locations. I absolutely love it. Love it.
And I've always heard, I did, Phantom, Witches and Phantoms in Scotland, a
Yeah.
couple years ago, which was great. And there was some of that, historic kind of thing and some of the hauntings. But I've always heard, and I'm not just saying this because you're on the show, but I've always heard that Ireland itself,
Mm.
has the paranormal pretty much everywhere, because of the rich countrysides, the
Yeah.
waters, everything that, has the electromagnetic kind of field around it, that it's almost like parts of Ireland are like a big portal to bring things in from all over the place.
It's a bit of a it's an amazing country, and I'm not just saying it because I live here and I'm Irish, but is I think the older that I have gotten, the more I appreciate my country even more, and the history of it. Like I was in town today, and I went into a tourist place, and I brought my Neil in with me, and I said, come into this, building. It's a tourist place, but come into it anyway because it is a very historic building. We went into it, and we got talking to the guys, and we got talking about the paranormal and what we do and so on. And it could possibly be now one of my new locations just by walking in and talking to the people. And one of the guys there loves the paranormal. He goes, "Where do I sign up? Can I join your team? Can I join your team?" And he's the guy you go to get this location. And I'm like, well, of course you can, of course you can. But so we possibly might get one of it's over 250 years old, which to us as paranormal investigators, it's young. 250
Yes.
years old is young. But it comes from one of the most historic towns in Ireland, in Drogheda in County Louth. So we're happy to take that on. If you want to give it to us, well, let me tell you, we can definitely take that on. And anywhere you go in Drogheda, where I live, there's just like the Drogheda Museum, Newgrange, Mellifont Abbey, Drogheda Museum, Millmount. There's a lot of history here, like Oliver Cromwell, who'd come over from the UK to, destroy Drogheda and Ireland, or Wexford and so on. And that's my dog still snoring, and I'm trying to get her.
No, it's okay. It's okay. She's tired.
She had a big meal tonight. She had a big meal tonight. And she's a fat chihuahua, so she's snoring. A fat chihuahua. But it is a fantastic town. And when you go go across my town, you'll see these old doorsteps, things like where you kind of brush your feet off. That's beautiful. That's Newgrange. We're going there this week. I'm taking Neil to Newgrange this week. It's always busy, so hopefully we can get into the monument. Hopefully we can. And that's Monaster Boys Abbey. Well, I've been there as well. It's only at the road from me. I live in the heart of the best places in Ireland. That's Monaster Abbey. We've been there as well. That's a beautiful place. But that's my dog still snoring. I've lost my train of thought of what I was saying there now. But, it is just a beautiful historic town, and I know when I've done many shows, and I've put Millmount on the map in America and in the UK and so on, and people want to come over, and we're having a lot of people coming over to do some beautiful locations here in Ireland with us, and I'm very proud of it. I think it's great. I love it.
And that's amazing. We are going to take a short break, and we will be back to talk about some more great places in Ireland.
This September 6th through the 13th, join with like-minded souls in the experience of a lifetime on the Royal Caribbean Ovation of the Seas as we travel from Seattle to Alaska. Internationally renowned researchers, investigators, experiencers, authors, holistic healers, contactees, spiritual luminaries will sail on an extraordinary voyage of transformation. This cruise will explore UFOs, alien contact, cover-ups, ancient mysteries, the paranormal, holistic healing, and spirituality. Experience engaging lectures, one-on-one sessions, private, custom-tailored excursions, and a nightly UFO watch. The cruise is booking up fast. Go to contactatsea.com and be sure to mention the UNX Network when you book. That's contactatsea.com or phone 336-749-1219. That's 336-749-1219.
And welcome back, everyone. I've got my special guest, Jenny Sullivan. She has been staying up late, all the way in Ireland, to talk to us tonight. We've kind of went over a little bit of some of the locations she has, different places there in Ireland. But the one that I kind of want to ask you about, Jenny, because I hear about it, but really don't know a lot, but I always hear it's kind of a darker place, and that's the Hellfire Club.
Oh, wow. Okay, we know the Hellfire Club. I have been there many times, and it is dark. It can be dark, but there's also an okay side to it because you can hear the females coming through to it as well. Myself and my team has been up there last year. We were supposed to go to it, I think, yesterday, but we didn't end up going up. The weather wasn't too great. But I tell you that the hell part of it is walking up that hill. There's a hill that you have to walk up to the Hellfire Club, and the hill alone is crazy. It is just a journey and a half in itself. You've got to be tough skinned to walk up that hill. It is hard. But when you get up there, the scenery of seeing Dublin, all of Dublin, is fabulous, especially at nighttime. But when we've been into the club, we've had amazing things going on in there. When Louise would do the Estes method, and I would ask the questions out, they would correspond to my questions, if that makes sense. And we were downstairs on one side of it, and Louise would have seen a dark shadow walking by her. Now, she didn't have a camera running at the time, but she'd seen a dark shadow at the side at one point. And then when we were all downstairs at one point, we had the REM pod upstairs on the second floor of it. I was talking about William, who had built it, and he did build it as a shooting range at one point. And I think 3 years after he built it, he had passed away. So then the elite from Ireland and the UK would come over and use it as a gentleman's club. And I was asking about the guy who built the club, and I said, if you're here, but I did say, I'm going to use the word, I did say it was known as a gentleman's club, and I did say I will use the word gentleman very loosely. And that's when the REM pod went off upstairs. So, and nobody was upstairs. And we're thinking like, oh my God, okay. So is it dark? It's okay. It's okay. I think from the stories of the Hellfire Club, it's, from my experiences in it, it makes you feel scared or a little bit apprehensive of it. It would make you feel scared. I remember standing in it one time on my own. I had my team with me, but they went outside in the daytime and they walked down some part of the mountain. And I only realized I'm on the second floor on my own in the Hellfire Club by myself as a woman. Oh my God. Anything I said before, I'm really sorry. So it's kind of like, do I walk down the stairs and kind of like get out of the building, or stay where I am? And I stayed where I was. And I did check over the window to see how high the drop would have been, to see if I had to jump out the window, is it a high drop? if I had to jump out, fight or flight. And I think I'd be like singing in the corner by myself. It's like, really sorry what I said before. I didn't mean it. But I think the dark stories from it, the story about, the really bad weather one night and the men were there, and some man knocked on the door, and, they brought him in, they were playing poker. One of the guys dropped a card, and he went down to pick it up, and seeing that the man that they had invited in had hoof feet. And that's why it was called the Hellfire Club. There's been bad stories from it where they had put a woman into a barrel and lit it on fire and threw it down, rolled her down the hill. It is a very active location. It is a very active location. Would it be very dark, as most people would say it would be? In my opinion, it's not dark. I wouldn't say it's dark. And if anyone's listening to this and from Ireland and saying it is dark, everyone each their own opinion. I wouldn't say it's too dark. I think the stories would make you feel very afraid as a woman in that location.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say
that's like, our location here in the United States, like Waverly,
Yes.
Asylum and everything. And everybody's always like, it's really dark. Well, it got a dark side because of what it was when it was open. And yes, it can actually portray that now. Depending on, what location of the building you go to, but because it's already in your mind, you're walking in expecting that. And then sometimes, I think that draws out the darker side of the spirits because they're feeding off of what we're bringing in too.
Right. Yeah. That you've heard the stories, and then you're feeling what the stories that you've been told and fed and heard, and that you're feeling it. So your emotions will play part of that, where you're very anxious of it. And I had been like that in the Hellfire Club. And I think it is, there's one particular room in the Hellfire Club that nobody likes. Nobody likes going into it. They hate it. They will just not go into it. And yet it is my favorite room to go into, because I feel nothing from, I know, right? And I feel nothing from it. I'm kind of like, gung-ho, not gung-ho, but I'm kind of like, right, I'm going into this room. And I did say at one point it was the men's club, and I said, no, it's the women's club, and you're not invited in, because women were never invited in. And I would never provoke, I would never do anything like that. But I did say one day, because I don't know why, and I just said, it's now the women's club, the women's club, and you're not invited in. I did say that. Yes, I did say that. You're not invited in. But I mean, the REM pod went off. We don't like to use. I personally don't like to use REM pods. But if I do use them, I do use them away away from me, and
Yes.
especially in locations where they cannot go off with electricity. There's no electricity up in this Hellfire Club. There's no electricity. But when it goes off, then you're thinking, oh my goodness, okay, if it goes off. But then I think batteries and so on and so on. And I'm kind of rational thinking like that. But that one particular room is probably my favorite room. And people won't walk by it. And I will go into it and I will stay in it by myself. And I don't do that in many locations at all. But this one I just do. I don't know why. Maybe it's the feisty Irish woman in me saying, come on, come on. But I wouldn't do it in most locations. Like, my goodness, I wouldn't. But the Hellfire Club is just the one that kind of gets me, that I would definitely go into that room that most people do not like. Men and women don't like it. But I like, it's my favorite room and I have no idea why.
I don't know. Some people would be like, demon, you know.
Worrying. I'm even worried myself. Why do I like this room so much?
It's my comfort zone.
Yes. Leave me alone and leave me in here by myself. It's such a small room that I like it.
But a lot of people are like that. There are some places, where a lot of people can't go in. They either get ill or panicky. And then you have that one person that goes in there and goes, I feel more comfortable here than I do the whole place.
Right.
And, sometimes I believe that's also the energy source that we are putting off, that this, that could have been a place where, somebody hid someone to protect them or do things. And then, because they have to feed off our energy too. And I feel like whatever we give, they can kind of, go with it, whether to do that or not. Where, I've been some locations and I'm like, oh, yeah, I can sit here all night. No problem. People are like, I'm getting a headache. I feel sick. And I'm like, ooh, am I possessed? What's going on?
Me too. I remember sitting in one of my locations and two people in the same location in the museum in Drogheda, and they sat on a settle bed and they were like, oh, I'm very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. And then one of the other team members sat on the sofa bed or the settle bed and they said no, and they got very emotional. And I said, oh my goodness, okay, let me try it. So I sat on the bed and I'm like, nope, not feeling anything. Nope, not for me. I felt nothing. I think maybe in my mind I was saying, today's not the day and I'm not the one. Let's not do that. And I think that's why, I don't know, I'm very, my people who know me will know that Jenny will not go to the bloody bathroom in any location by myself. It's just because I know too much. I've seen too much and I've felt too much and I've heard too much to know, no matter where you go, they're going to see you. So but sitting on the settle bed, I was fine with it. And sitting in particular location, sitting in particular rooms in different locations, I was fine with it. I was okay with it, I think. Yeah. I think.
Well, and I think, that's very true, so, like, a lot of times I see the darker side of things. And so that first initial shock I get for a minute, but then that's like my comfort area. It's more of, if it doesn't stay this way, then I get a little worried because I'm like, okay, why am I seeing this beautiful bright light and so on and so on?
Right.
This makes no sense. Then I get kind of scared and everybody's like, oh God, that's not right. And I'm like, but I'm supposed to be talking about that. And I think so that gets me off kiltered and everybody just kind of looks and shakes their head at me like, okay, are you okay? And I'm like, honestly, I am. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Lep Castle, we hear about it all the time too.
Oh my goodness.
It's the biggest, just like we have Waverly here.
Yeah.
You guys have Lep Castle and you hear all different types of stories. When you go into that castle, they've had it on TV.
Yes.
And it's always, showing the really scary parts of it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is it the castle itself giving that ambiance of doing that, or does it have different layers in it?
It definitely has different layers in it. Definitely has different layers. And I know this for a fact. And I won't even tell you what room is what room and what they do and what they've given out.
Yeah.
And but I will say it definitely has different layers to Lep Castle. You can have the most most people that I know would have had the most negative experiences in it. I didn't up until February of last year. But apart from that, I was there for 5 years consecutively. I was there for 5 years. And all my experiences there was amazing, fantastic, nice, warm, friendly, or just an investigation where we were researching this beautiful castle. There was one particular time when I was there in February of last year, and I had a friend of mine from Washington, D.C. over with us. And so he's a YouTuber and whatnot. And I said, and we took him to other castles for that week that he was with us. And I said to him, so what do you think about, Lep Castle? What do you think about, the bloody chapel and so on and so on? And he said, yeah, it's okay. And I said to him, yeah, it can be a little bit quiet. It can be a little bit quiet. Oh, I love that place. It can be a little bit quiet. And I said, and then I swear within 10 seconds later, I had the most craziest experience. And of all my years of doing investigations, and I will credit myself and my team for being very realistic, and there's no airs or graces about us. We are very, very, very realistic. We're not, look what we've got and whatever, and your experiences. We're very real in what we do and how we do it. And each experience is very taken on board and noted. In that bloody chapel, when I said that to my guest, and I said, yes, it can be very quiet sometimes. Within 10 seconds, I had the punch in my face of sulfur. And I remember having the smell of sulfur 10 years or 12 years prior to that, if not longer. And I said, I said in different shows, I never, ever want to smell something like that again. When I said that to him, within 10 seconds, I had smelled sulfur, and I knew immediately what was happening. And I grabbed him by his little skinny arm, and I grabbed him by his arm, and I just and I did, and God bless him. And I was like, get me out, get me out, get me out. And I had guests with us, and I'm like, okay, everyone, I can smell some burning, so we have to go downstairs right now. We have to go downstairs, come with me, or I'm going on my own. And they obviously all came with me. And I kept checking the back of my coat. Is my coat burning? Is my coat burning? Is my coat burning? They said, Jenny, no, your coat's not burning. And I knew what it was. Like, it didn't even waft in through the windows. It just was up my nose within 2 seconds, like a warning to say, don't say that. And I'm very realistic and very open and honest in my feelings and my findings on my locations and so on. And I'm doing this many, many, many years. And I went downstairs and I stayed downstairs. I never went back to the bloody chapel after that for that night. I will go back to it this year or next year. We have it booked for March. We're going back to March, but hopefully this year we can go back into it. But I never wanted to experience that smell again, but I did it that night in the bloody chapel. And that was kind of like a warning to me, and it was very real to me, and it resonated with me. And I remember the team went upstairs, and I radioed up to Louise, and I said, Louise, is it okay to go back upstairs? And so they were doing the spirit box and so on, and a lady said no. So I said, right, fair enough, I will not go back upstairs. I didn't, and like I said, I'm doing this many years, and normally I would kind of go back upstairs and whatever, but I did not do it this time because I'm not pushing my luck.
Yeah.
To upstairs when I've been warned. And that was a very big warning to me not to go back upstairs when I've had that smell. Like I said, it didn't waft through the windows. It just was immediately up my nose, that no one else had smelt it. It was up my nose. And I could taste that sulfur again. And I just knew exactly what was happening. And it reminded me back when I was on my first team that I ever was with. And I just thought, no, I will not let this happen again. And it frightened me a lot. It frightened me. So, and things like that for me makes me feel that even though how many years I'm doing this, it's still a validation of this is very, very real what we do. And it's not a mess about. And your audio is great, your video footage is great. But when you have these warnings, especially that sulfur smell, you kind of got to listen to it. It's a lot. It was a lot for me again that night. And I sat downstairs by the fireplace and I did not go back. I did continue on the night with investigations, but when I was walking up to the second floor, I kind of put my head down that I didn't look at the third floor where I'd see the steps going back up to the bloody chapel. I learned my lesson, if that makes sense. Not learned my lesson, but I was warned by whoever was there, and I know the people who's in that third floor of the bloody chapel. I know who they are. So yeah, it wasn't pleasant at all. Yeah, it was kind of something that stays with me.
Oh yeah, and I've had that happen, and you don't find it because, like you said, you're tasting it because it almost tasted. It tastes almost like rotten eggs and metal.
Yeah,
And it is the worst feeling because when you're asking other people, "Do you smell that or do you this?" And they're like, "No, there's nothing." And it's just like stuck in your nose hairs
yeah,
and you're just, you wanna gag because it doesn't clear out.
yeah.
Um,
They
but
couldn't
it
smell
happened
it.
to me. Yeah, it is. It is actually a little bit scarier than if you hear something on audio because
Right.
people don't understand when you have a personal experience and you can't make really heads or tails of it, but it's something to tell you back off,
Yeah.
you know, um, you listen to that because
That's
that
it.
is hard for them to give you a sign like that. So if they're giving you a sign like that, you're like, yeah, I'm going to backtrack for a minute.
That's
So
it. And then people would think, like, because we had guests with us who has never been in Lep Castle before. And I never wanted them to think, oh, this is for entertainment. Like,
yeah,
genuinely leave in a room because I felt something, we must leave, we must leave. And we were all walking down the stairs, and poor Louise was walking up the stairs with equipment. She goes, "Where are you going?" We're like, "We're going downstairs." And she goes, we said we could smell burning. And she continued, Louise, being Louise, walked back, kept walking up the stairs. I'm going up. She says, I'm going up. I'm like, Louise, please don't go upstairs just yet. And she goes, Jenny, I've got a radio. I'm going up. So all the team went back with her and guests went back with her. Two guests actually stayed downstairs with me because it was a shocker. And I just kind of knew it was something that resonated with me. And it, when you, like I said, when you can taste it, you can
yeah,
smell it, and it burns the nostrils, hair, and your nose, and you can taste it. It's just
yeah.
it is something that you wish you could explain, but you can't explain it. You cannot explain it. Yeah, but
No,
apart from that,
it
it's
happens.
great. Apart from that, it's great.
Well, and it's crazy because sometimes those kind of things happens when you do have an event. And, you can a lot of times if you do team things, you go in, you get little here, little there, everything
Yeah,
seems good. But then you do an event somewhere and you're like, "Oh, this will be great. We'll get a little bit of something." But you tell the
yeah,
people, so on and so on. But I think all the different energies that come to these events can stir other things up. And
yeah,
you don't think about it until something happens, and like you said, you're trying to stay strong because you don't want people thinking, you're setting this up for entertainment,
right.
but that's normally when one of those things will happen when you're just like, "What?" I mean, I had an event, I had 2, 3 people I had to take outside because they got so angry. The one kid
Oh,
tried to choke his dad,
oh
like,
my
taking
gosh.
the life out of him, and we're trying to take him out, and we're doing our prayers and all this, and I'm like, What is going on?" And then all of a sudden another person goes down and
Mhm.
their eyes are turning kind of darker and they're talking about stuff they should have no clue about. And it was just like, what is happening at this place?
It's a lot.
And it's a lot. And then, you got other people that are there for the event going, what the hell is going on? What are you guys doing? Did you guys pay extra for this? And
Exactly.
you're just like, well, this normally doesn't happen this way, but everybody got their money's worth. I'm glad you all signed a waiver,
Yeah.
because uh it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah.
And so I understand exactly how you feel when something like that actually happens. You're
Yeah.
trying to stay calm and cool and collected because you don't want people to talk about it in a negative way.
That's
But at the
it.
same time, your whole body is telling you, "Get the hell
You need
out.
to
Don't
go.
be
You need
stupid."
to go. And I'm the team founder, and I'm doing it many years, and I'm team founder and a team leader, and so on. And you're thinking like I'm the one who should stay, and I'm like, well, no, not at this stage. When I smell sulfur, we gotta go. We have to
Yeah,
go. And
absolutely.
I've smelt it before, and I've had experiences from it before in one particular area up in the north of Ireland. And I knew to myself, and I, like I said before, I never wanted to smell this smell ever again. And I did. So I recognized it. I resonated with it. And I'm like, guys, I don't, I'm great. I'm glad you're having a great night in the bloody chapel, but we have got to leave. Gotta
Yeah.
leave. And I'm glad they all went back up because they were very happy with the team upstairs again. But it was just me that they didn't want back up. They
Oh
just did not
gosh.
want back up. And I had no idea why, because I said nothing, I did nothing. And I don't know why.
It comes at craziest times. And again, I am so excited that you're gonna be able to help with this tour to Ireland,
I'm
you
looking forward.
know, just to not just the enrichment of the history and why there could be paranormal and things like that. And I think a lot of people, kind of forget that this is a tour that, you're not going all over the place trying to do 50 million things and don't know
Right.
what to do. Everything is set up. You just come,
Yeah.
you enjoy, and just have a lot of, it's for people who want to see the paranormal, want to, experience different things, with the fairies and different kind of
Right.
cryptids, whatever's out there. This will definitely be your tour. Before we leave, Jenny, I do want to say thank you so much for joining us. I would
Probably.
really love to have you come back on and tell some more of your great stories because what you guys are doing and compared to some of us here, to kind of be able to tell the difference of, even though we might use same techniques, of how things are different and what kind of stuff we get.
Yeah.
So, again, thank you so
Thank
much,
you
and I
so
can't
much.
wait till we get together and have some
No,
shenanigans.
listen, Carol, I'm so looking forward to it. I want to say thank you so much for having me on. I've been excited about being on your show. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, everyone, Jenny also has a show that she's been doing since what we said 2020, right?
2020. Yeah.
Yes. And when can they catch your show, Jenny?
I think we're back on Saturday night. Myself and Neil will be doing a show on Saturday night about the local body snatchers in
Oh,
Drogheda and County Louth, because we've been doing a lot of research and history on it. So I never realized there was many body snatchers in Drogheda, where I come from. So we're very interested in it. We are going to some graves where you have the body snatchers watch our houses. So we are going to be taking pictures. We might do a little live from it, but we do have a show on Saturday night, myself and Neil Story, on body snatchers.
awesome, awesome. I might have to jump in on that. And
Yes.
just before we leave, everyone, I want to thank everyone who's been listening this evening. I also want to remind you guys, October 11th through the 13th in Springfield, Missouri, you're going into the rabbit hole with the XCon
Oh my
2024.
goodness.
Yes, a whole bunch of amazing people,
Oh,
of
wow.
speakers, paranormal investigations. Also gonna, you have all sorts of vendors from metaphysical to UFOs, you name it, they will be there. And from myself and my guest, Jenny, I
Thank you so
want to
much.
send you guys all lots of love and light. And till next time, I will see you in the dark.